And here we are, back with the welcome series. We're talking with our Vice President of Fundraising, Jonny Price. Again, in this effort to get to know the Wefunder team here in Nashville a lot better. So I guess first and foremost, for in regards to your job with Wefunder, what do you do?
Yes, I help find founders and talk to them about WeFunder, walk them through the pros and cons, why they might want to allocate part of their round to their community and the crowd, their customers, and persuade them that they should launch a campaign on WeFunder.
Yeah, you. I remember you initially were with Kiva, and over there, that's more so helping lend to the everyday person.
Yeah, kind of micro business owners, small business owners, the food truck, the barbershop, so kind of similar role, like trying to find these entrepreneurs that want to raise capital through crowdfunding. And then on WeFunder, obviously, we're still working with small businesses, but the Kiva average loan size was 5K.
Yeah.
WeFunder average campaign is 350K.
Yeah.
So usually, kind of businesses that are on that fast growing growth track.
Yeah, so is this just something that you're like truly passionate about to go from one space doing it to another and another, larger level?
I'm passionate about this idea of democratizing access to capital. And so what that means is allowing anyone to be an investor, not just rich people, not just millionaires, billionaires, institutions, but you and me can be investors in a company we love for $100. So that is, in politics, right? Like you had an aristocracy or a monarchy where you have a small number of people controlling the reins of power politically, and then you have democracies where everyone has a vote. And so I'm excited about this idea of applying a democratic model to finance, just as we have in politics. No one wants to go back to a monarchy, well, maybe some people do back in my home country of England, but we like democracy in politics. Everyone gets a vote, everyone gets a say, and so I'm excited about this idea of democracy applied to finance, applied to the economy. And then I hope that, just as in politics, democracy leads to more equitable outcomes for people. So in finance, if we have a democratic approach to who can invest and how we're allocating money, then maybe we get more capital flowing to underrepresented founders, women, people of color. Here in Nashville, it's kind of heavily under-indexed from a early stage capital perspective. Like a lot of the money is going to Silicon Valley, New York, and Boston. So, again, through democracy, if we allow more people in Nashville to vote with their dollars, and hopefully we can get more capital flowing to startup founders here in Nashville.
Well, if you being at the level you are, how do you think it's going? Because it's still all fairly new, and I'm pretty sure there's still a lot of push and pull on both sides, trying to open it up even more. Mm-hmm. Like just reaching the $5 million cap this year seems like this slow process of opening up to the people even more. How do you think the progress has been?
Yeah, it's been relatively slow. So the Jobs Act was passed by Congress in 2012, and then it took 4 years for the SEC to roll out the regulation crowdfunding component of that, which was May 2016. So it's been 5 years now since the laws have been live, and for the first 4 or 5 years, they were not that conducive. So you could only raise $1 million. It was harder to roll investors up to online on the cap table. We couldn't use SPVs. It took weeks and weeks to launch a campaign. Now we can launch it in minutes. So a lot of these rule changes that happened in March of 2021 have made it a lot more interesting for founders. And so we have a lot more founders coming saying, oh, actually, yeah, I will allocate $5 million of this round to my customers and community alongside to complement institutional investors, smart money, and kind of I would say really high quality companies as well. So Rome Research just did a raise with us. We fund ourselves. We raised $5 million on Reg CF. Mercury Bank just did a really successful raise recently. So I think the quantity is growing, the quality is growing. And what's cool about this business model, it's like Uber, right? It's a two-sided marketplace where the more drivers you have, the better it is for passengers. The more passengers you have, the better it is for drivers. And it's the same on WeFunder, right? More founders, it's more options for people to invest in. More investors, then it's easier for founders to raise money from our existing investor base. And so there's this like powerful kind of two-sided network effect. And so we're in the very, very early innings. Like our market share of angel investing, venture capital is tiny percentage. But I think we're about 5x up on this time last year, and I think the growth over the next few years is going to be super exciting.
How's it feel to be in a go from San Fran to a city like Nashville, and implement it? I remember you saying that you came here because of family reasons. You probably were still thinking like we're gonna bounce back and forth between here and San Fran and kind of build there. But then there was something here that kind of like opened your eyes and ears even more to say we can build a base here.
Yeah, well, I think obviously there's a lot of startup activity in San Francisco. A lot of Wefunders like investment volume and startups are in SF and New York and Boston. Those three hubs account for 77% of venture capital today, which is kind of insane and what we're trying to solve as a company. So I think like being here in Nashville and Tennessee, right, which really gets less angel investment, less venture capital than it should based on population or GDP. Being here is good, both from a mission perspective, right? Because Wefunder is about trying to use democracy to get more capital flowing to founders and places that are currently underrepresented. So from a mission perspective, this is what we are about as a company. But then also I think from a product market fit perspective, right? So if you have a place like San Francisco that is awash with investors and capital, and it's just so easy to raise money and valuations are super high, the benefits of Wefunder for founders are relatively less pronounced, right? When you come to a place like Nashville, and a founder told me that you can't get in front of angel investors in Nashville until you have $1 million in annual recurring revenue. It's like, angel investors, that should be what you're hearing from a VC, right? So I've heard from a lot of founders that it's tough to raise that early stage capital, and if you have rich friends and family, okay, you can get it. But again, then you come back to this situation where if you're from a lower income background or your community doesn't have that money, that wealth to take a flyer on a startup, then what do you do? And so then I think when we come along and say, okay, we've got a platform, we've got 1 million registered users, we will allow you to raise in $100 increments and hustle hard and promote your campaign and market your campaign. You're good at marketing, you've marketed your product, now you can market your fundraise as well. So then it's the product market fit, the value proposition of Wefunder to founders, I think is actually stronger in a place like Nashville. So I think we're seeing a lot of pickup now, really, really good pipeline in terms of founders that are saying, oh, wow, this is like, and not just as a way to raise money, but obviously as a way to engage your community and customers, turn them into brand ambassadors and champions and your marketing team. So it feels like, we're in the right place.
Yeah, 'cause you figure your customers are your first investors in the first place. They believed in the product enough to give you money for it, and even with those those creative examples, I think Earthrise is really good. I think the greatness about the platform is the fact that it gives the little guy that becomes resourceful because of just like ideas and just taking advantage of what little bit they have and kind of just seeing it as a lot. And you get the opportunity to kind of like test some things out, and versus not getting the opportunity at all because you don't fit a certain criteria. I think that's what's super cool when you tap into the smaller markets. Like the artists will make the best out of anything they have, and if you put them on a stage, they're going to perform.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we have a stage, and the fact that in conventional fundraising, that artist that you mentioned, that founder, is not able to use those talents. I mean, I guess you can get connected to rich people, and you can pitch rich people, and you can perform in that stage for an audience of one, but we're allowing you to kind of perform in front of an audience of millions of people publicly and use this thing called the internet, which was invented a few years ago to promote the fundraise. I always think it's kind of pretty anachronistic how conventional fundraising, you're limited to raising from rich people behind closed doors. It just seems like such an antiquated way of raising capital. It's fun to be disrupting that.
What's your background in?
Well, I grew up in the UK, studied history in college, did a gap year teaching in a school in Africa for 8 months in Zambia, which was a lot of fun. And then got into management consulting out of college, did that for 6 years, a firm called Oliver Wyman. And then from there, I went to Kiva and founded this US team within Kiva. Kiva was international, nonprofit, but brought that model to the US back in 2011, ran that for 7 years, then fell out with the CEO, which brought me to Wefunder, and so far, thankfully, haven't fallen out with the Wefunder CEO. At least not to the extent that he's kicked me out. But yeah, so that's my background: consulting, non-profits at Kiva, and now Wefunder for the last 3 now.
Yeah, I asked because getting to know you more is just this dope combination of like numbers and like people, community, on top of like just amazingly good vibes, like kind of consistently optimistic. I said you were in glasses the other day. What did it say on the side?
Stay positive.
Stay positive. I was like,
Justin Renfro.
yeah, it's like,
Yeah, I think that's actually my it's kind of my background, right? Like Oliver Wyman is like management consulting, and then Kiva is like non-profit heart mission. And interestingly, I think my two biggest skills, I think, in my role, I'm actually really good at like building Excel models. That's where I started my career, right? And like tracking metrics and analytics and stuff. But then also, yeah, I think I'm good at like building relationships with people and building rapport with founders and, hopefully shooting them straight. So yeah, I do have kind of combination of that numbers side and people relationship side.
which I think is great when you step into the more financial spaces, because people's guards are constantly up. Not everybody's comfortable talking about the numbers and like where they are and financial stability, because of feeling embarrassed and possibly being judged because they're not in their mind doing as well. So to come in there with that more positive attitude, and we're going to make this happen no matter what it is, like nothing's bad, we're going to grow, I think is on top of, can add sort of like the metrics of this is how you grow. I think that's been like a super benefit. Actually, one of the driving forces why I came here. I want to get better on that end as well, because I think I'm pretty good on the creative end, pretty good on the people end, but if we can attach, more quantitative and qualitative metrics to it, then we can actually understand what that return is on the creativity. So
that's tough. It's very, very rare, right, to have both sides. I think it's weird that I have like the number side and the people side. That's it's an unusual combination. Yeah. I do not have any bones of organization in my body at all. So creative, great. Discipline and organization, nope.
But I think that's the best bones. Like you can teach a creative person to be technical. It's really hard to teach a technical person to be creative. And so if you come into the door with that wide-eyed imagination and it's like, all right, now let's just curve it into here.
You are like super organized. I mean, you are the discipline and the rapidity with which you put, content out there is so impressive to me. Yeah. Like you have this like process down, and it's awesome.
Yeah, just years and years of figuring out the best way to get it done myself, because
do it like unbelievably efficiently, but with kind of a system and like organization that I am really hopeless at. Yeah. I need to surround myself with people like Suze and Catherine, to compliment me there. Yeah.
So, to kind of close things out some, like for somebody on the outside that's interested in kind of like coming into a Nashville, what is your sales pitch as far as family, community, business? What are those things that are real driving forces to building here?
Yeah, I mean, I think Nashville's a really exciting place to be right now, right? There's a big influx of people. I saw some infographic the other day that said, I think Austin was the number 1 and Nashville was the number 2 for cities in the country with an influx of, I think it was tech-based employees per capita of the city, and Nashville was number 2. So there's a lot of kind of people growth right now, new people coming in. That's like really just a fun environment to be in, kind of cosmopolitan, creative environment. And I think there's a kind of the startup scene now with like platforms and resources like Wefunder, other like institutional investors coming in, more kind of support systems and groups and people supporting founders and trying to build community among founders. And it's a much cheaper place to be than like in San Francisco where I was before. We have a much larger house that is cheaper and like has a yard, and the food in this town is amazing. Was eating at Henrietta Red's last night, which is, I don't know if you've been there, but it's super good. And we also have mechanical bulls that you can ride on Broadway. We had a Wefunder team all riding mechanical bulls the other night off of Broadway. So yeah, get bend. So yeah, well, I'm loving it here, and we have 3 kids now, all under the age of 5, and this is a great city to be raising them in. We live in Sylvan Park, which is like very kind of neighborhood vibe. So yeah, we're loving it.
Yeah. Well, super appreciate the time. To really get to know you more, and to have the folks out there also as well get to know you more. This is all the great reasons to come to Nashville. You have me, you have Johnny, you have Reed, you have Ryan, you have Ben, you have Joshua coming. Yeah. And we're just continuing to create this really cool space for people to get that opportunity that they've been looking for. And little do they know, it's like right in their backyard, and right amongst their friends and family. So yeah, super appreciate it. Gonna let you get back to all the meetings.
Yes, all of the back-to-back meetings and phone calls. That is my life. Appreciate it, man. This is fun.
Yeah.